So thank you everyone for being here tonight on the last informational call from Citizens Climate International in 2021. We've done our introductions. I'm going to briefly describe getting CCI off the ground, a whirlwind global tour of about, I think of only about 10% of what was done. I have to miss so many stories. We'll do a COP26 recap and look ahead into 2022 and do some Q&A at the end. And I hope by the end of tonight, you will learn more about Citizens Climate International and celebrate our achievements in 2021. They were wonderful, and be empowered as we look ahead into 2022. Just to remind ourselves, our two primary areas of work at Citizens Climate International are to empower citizens to build the political will for a livable world. And that's a lot of our training involves that, but we also facilitate citizen engagement into the international processes. So the big thing that happened in 2021 is we became a legal entity in the United States of America. Until January, well, I guess it wasn't finalized until March, but until this year, we were a subdivision of Citizens Climate Lobby. So we got our own website, we created a newsletter, we developed a bigger social media presence, created more channels. We did a whole bunch of branding stuff. That stuff's so complicated. Oh my goodness. We had to maintain the integrity of our contact lists. We started these monthly informational calls. We hosted our first Earth Day event. We developed programming for the year to keep connecting us together across the planet. We also, there's a lot of legal stuff, and we helped leaders that would in countries would ultimately grow from 65 countries to 76 countries. And we worked in high-level negotiations and help others do the same, mainly G7 and the negotiations in June, and then the COP26 in November. And we did all this work with just 2 full-time staff and 2 part-time staff, and no one until recently paid outside to do any of this work outside the USA. And this is Joe, myself, David, Michael, and Celia. And this is our board, Megan, and Isatis, and Andres. And we cannot do our work without this incredible team behind us. First, acknowledging the interns. Jess Wilbur and Sophia really helped me immensely. Jacques and Clara are fellows. Jacques has been my fellow, and Clara is working more with Joe. Jacques does almost all of the Francophone stuff for us. For those of you that don't know what I just said, basically the French stuff in Africa. And Clara is helping with getting programs to help link our program to universities. Would like to take a moment to acknowledge all these country coordinators, and they're all volunteers. So Marlo does a lot of our stuff in Canada. James Collis is the European coordinator, and we've got David Michael Turunga, our coordinator on the continent of Africa. And just acknowledging that Rod has been our point person and the chair of Citizens Climate Lobby Australia, but we now have a new CEO in Australia. I think that's the title, so welcome, Will. And in Latin America, we have Isatis as the country coordinator, and previously Tammy was helping her, but she's gone back to practicing medicine in Boston. So we'll quickly do a tour here. In Latin America, in 2017, when I started on staff, there was 1 active chapter in Panama, and that's when Tammy was living there, and she got that up and running. There are now 4 more active chapters, 1 each in Colombia, Chile, the Dominican Republic, and Mexico. And we do have developing chapters in Belize and Brazil and Peru and Haiti, Venezuela and Argentina, as well as Puerto Rico. So here are some of the examples of things that were done in Latin America this year. A Citizens Climate Lobby Mexico had a conference of youth right before an election, talking about what they wanted to see for climate. we had a youth conference, and we had a really amazing Latin American contingent there. And I really don't think I could have done this without the help of the Spanish at all. Would not have been possible if it were not for the leaders in Chile, Mexico, and Colombia. Two of our leaders in Latin America and our coordinator were at COP26. And in fact, Jorge was part of the Mexican delegation. Laura Morales from Colombia was there as well. And this is us playing in the countryside in Scotland together. And Isatis got to speak in a high-level plenary. One of our young leaders was there, but not on our ticket. His name is Francesco Vera. He's a citizen climate lobbyist. He's learning how to speak about carbon pricing, and he's only 12 years old. And he's also Colombia's ambassador to the European Union. And here we are again. And just to remind ourselves that doing work to protect the climate in some parts of the world is dangerous. And earlier in the year, things got quite violent in Colombia, and there was protests and government killing people, and Citizens Climate International put out an official statement. That's briefly what we've been doing in South America. This is Africa. It is so incredible how much growth there has been. We had one active chapter in Abuja when I started in 2017. Now we have 28 active chapters, and actually this should say there's some in developing countries as well. So just incredible work. We had Malawi lobby their forestry and climate change minister about carbon pricing. She wants to see lots more about carbon fee and dividend, and actually posted the story on her Facebook page. Similar lobbying went on in Gambia. A whole bunch of our volunteers in Africa in March brought letters to their governments asking for carbon fee and dividend, including Sierra Leone, oh my goodness, Uganda, Kenya, and I'm going to forget, so please forgive me, but a whole bunch of them did this. Additionally, we had some representatives at COP26 from Citizens Climate Lobby that came mostly on their own country's tickets. So they actually got to be parties with their countries, including Andrew Mahame from Kigali, Rwanda, and he spent the day with us on the Fridays for Future March in Glasgow. We also spent some time together with our friends at Parachutes for the Planet, including a new volunteer from Nigeria. There's Andrew again, there's Barton Rubenstein, the founder of Parachutes for the Planet. And this here is DGA, and I'm not able to pronounce his last name right now, sorry, our leader in Burundi, and just someone else and myself. There was another woman from Nigeria. Her name is Diani. She was there, met up with her, and our leader in Gambia was there as well. Over here, if you can see in the top right corner, this is Precious. She's from Zambia. It's her first time ever leaving the continent of Africa. She's a young mom. She got all the way to COP26. Belongs to a whole bunch of organizations, and her presence there, I hope she knows, made a difference. Lastly, at COP26 was Gloria Bullis. She's a leader in Nigeria, and she got us a meeting with a senator while at COP26, and I do believe they are lobbying again tomorrow. But right before COP26, a whole bunch of Nigerians went to their and got trained up and went to their Capitol Hill like a week before COP26 and lobbied their government. And just to do a little shout out here to our friends in Zimbabwe who are doing incredible work doing with tree planting and protecting the forests of Zimbabwe. And lastly, this young man, Taryn Voodoo of Port Louis, Mauritius, found us. He's 16 years old, and he really wants to lobby his government for carbon pricing. So all eyes on Tehran. I can't wait to see what he does in 2022. And that's just some of the stories. I'm not going to do this, but I'm going to just skip over this one. that was just Grace, and Grace, she's doing incredible work in Uganda. But just briefly, for those of you who don't know what Francophone means, it means French speaking. And I have this angel in my life. His name is Jacques Kingio, and he runs this whole division with my support. He's launched 7 chapters in the Francophone parts of Africa. That means the French speaking. He's run monthly informational calls starting in June. He's run training. He ran the whole French youth training session at our youth conference this year. He also contributes to the got them all to join this Francophone site on community. He just has done so much. And he did this while his wife was in medical school and gave birth to a baby. So just incredible work being done by Jacques. So that's Africa. And we have some wonderful work being done in Asia. This is Raza Shafak. He was at COP26. I met up with him a couple of times there. He was there as a party delegate with his government. He's been lobbying his government through Twitter. That's how they do it on Pakistan. Ultimately got face-to-face meetings with governments, politicians and officials in Pakistan, and is now working with the Islamic Relief Fund. And together, we're talking about climate change and things for Pakistan and helping each other, exchanging material here. Here is Rituraj Pukan. He's the leader of India. There are 7 active chapters there, and he was at COP26 and provided a really beautiful lens onto India. As well, we have 4 chapters now in Bangladesh and growing because and they actually all work together and are lobbying and doing things like that and getting on TV. And all these groups, including our friends in Japan, are parts of our youth conference and our Upgrading Global Climate Action series. We launched a Japanese website, which was awesome. And also, they've done some wonderful work, highlighting why they like carbon pricing on the web and lobbying. So really proud of the work our friends are doing in Japan. We also have what's called a Myanmar Diaspora group. This group here is actually not people not living in Myanmar. They're living outside of Myanmar. And when the coup happened in February, when the government was taken over by the military, these young people from across the world wanted to do something, and they reached out to Citizens Climate International. And we've trained them on how to get organized and how to lobby. And so they will be lobbying their governments to in the countries that they're in. So if they're in the USA, they'll be lobbying the US government or the Canadian government or the German government or anyways, and they're also information sharing and working with many other groups for there to be sanctions on the current sham government in Myanmar. And Europe, unbelievable work in Europe. They've been did a lot of work this year towards the G7. That's because the G7 was in Cornwall, and they're looking into 2022 to do work in the G7. Also, the COP26 was there, grown tremendously since 2017. Just a few highlights in here, and I'm missing so much. Our group in Norway lobbied the various parties in the Norwegian government, and they are now getting the Norwegian government itself to do a white paper, which is a study on climate income in Norway, which is such a tremendous feat. Finnish people had reached out to us also to start a diaspora group to help their families in the United States and vice versa actually help create political will for climate action in the USA, because they feel in Finland, they've got pretty much everything they need, and now they want to help other countries. So, and there's a Finnish diaspora, and they want to help their family in the USA do more for the climate using the CCL methodology. So they're going to be helping us that way. And here down is CCL in France. And this is them lobbying a high-level person in France, and they have a huge meeting in January with a committee. They call it an audition with some sort of committee in the government. So that is Citizens Climate Lobby Europe. I'm going to skip over that one. And this is Oceania. So we only had Australia before, but now we also have Singapore, ultimately got Singapore and New Zealand as part, and Australia has grown. And I'd like to welcome Will Dable, if he wants to introduce himself, that would be great. But just admiring all the work you've been doing down under, just like running national conferences, regional conferences, all sorts of public education, a fantastic website as well. Just over in New Zealand, they had a carbon dividend study done and presented it to the New Zealand government. So Will, do you want to just introduce yourself so people can get to know you a little, please?
Hey everybody, I'm the first paid staff member in Australia, which is the result of years and years of really, really hard work from the volunteers. So we're currently gathering all the information we need to come out of the gate screaming in 2022. Gonna get super organized. We're really excited about bundling up our research and helping other climate advocates in our sector, because we've got quite a well-connected sector here. Yeah, and kind of playing our bit as best as we can, and extending Rod's love and kindness even more broadly than it already has been, I think.
Well, congratulations and welcome, and we're here to help. And just a tiny bit about Canada. I know this slide is really busy. Our carbon pricing policy passed through the Supreme Court of Canada. I think that was the biggest thing in 2021. It was an affirmation of our work, and it really, like a big sigh of relief here. As well, there's a court case here in Ontario where the youth are suing the government of Ontario for weakening our climate targets. And it will be heard in the highest court of Ontario in September 2022. And why I put it here is because Alex Neufeld is the leader of Citizens Climate Lobby Ottawa. She's 23. This girl here is the lead plaintiff, and she's my daughter. And Zoe has lobbied with us and also presented at conferences with us. So legal stuff here happening in Canada, affirming our carbon pricing policy, and also for the first time in history, a climate case has successfully passed through a gauntlet, I guess I would say, in the legal system under our charter rights. So they didn't win the case, but they actually got to move forward on the case. So that's huge, to have climate change be heard under our charter rights. And I know I'm mangling that from a legal perspective, and I'm nervous because I know there's a lawyer on the call, but if I got that wrong, please correct me. And our carbon pricing policy survived a second election in Canada, which should be very heartening to most people. We did something really unique, and I hope we can do it again in 2022. We got parliamentarians from our subnational governments on a call to learn more about why carbon pricing, especially the way we like it, is so important. There's this really amazing speaker and philosopher who can just plainly, without emotions and using logic, why carbon taxes, especially our way of carbon taxing, is the best way. But he does it in such a way that you don't feel like you're being manipulated or emotionally or whatever. It's pure logic. And it's a really nice way. Anyways, he spoke for 15 minutes, and then we had a couple other speakers, and then we went into breakout rooms and we lobbied at the provincial level. It was really cool. So we and it was nice. And we also had a national conference. And this is our carbon pricing policy in Canada, just to remind everyone. It's just because I think most countries want something similar to what Canada has. So it's important to rehash it. It started at $20 a ton, went up $10 a ton to 2022, and then it will rise $15 a ton to $170 a ton by 2030. This is the data. So we get a rebate only in provinces that don't have an equivalent carbon pricing policy to what the feds want. So these are the provinces: Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Alberta. Well over 60% of families come ahead. We'll get a top up. We used to get it through income tax. And this is like going to be huge. We're going to get 4 rebate checks next year. And I think once Canadians start getting their rebate checks, I think, having passed through the gauntlet of the Supreme Court and then 2 elections, and then these rebate checks, I think it's a done deal. So we can finally start breathing, which is, well, we were, but, not feeling like we've got a monkey on our back. Yeah. And then lastly, I like to think of these carbon pricing policies in 2 separate buckets. So this is the consumer price. In order to deal with trade and keeping our heavy industry competitive, there's a separate bucket. So it has a completely different carbon pricing system. It's called output-based carbon pricing. It's like cap and trade, but without a cap. I'm going to leave it at that, not go into the details. But we have been asking our government to study border carbon adjustments, and they are. And today, the German mission, the European Union mission, the Canadian government, our former Minister of Climate Change, and who was also the former co-chair of the Carbon Pricing Leadership Coalition, and the Canadian Net Zero Advisory Board had an open meeting to the public today on border carbon adjustments. So I can't wait to get the report I'm supposed to get tomorrow. Yeah, it's moving. Yes. And why carbon pricing? Because it works. Like nothing works as well as carbon pricing. No, it can't get us all the way to 1.5, but maximizing carbon pricing, nothing comes close to shaving off carbon out of the atmosphere. I hope you saw this most recent Nature study that protecting poor with a carbon tax and equal capita dividend will get us, well, if this was rolled out internationally, it would get us to the 2-degree target and reduce income inequality as well. And why is that? That's because the richest 5 and 10% are huge consumers of carbon. So really nice data here. And I'm going to skip that one. So any questions? I'm going to stop for a minute. I've been talking way too long. Any questions about Canada or any of the countries before I switch over to some of the programs we ran and the United Nations? Anyone?
Was that session on border carbon adjustments recorded? Is that, will you be able to circulate a link for that at some point?
I don't know. I think the last one was, and I wasn't there. So yeah, I got some, I passed it on to CCL staff, and
Okay.
So they're supposed to report to me.
Okay, great.
And have you signed up to the Net Zero Advisory Body email list?
No, but I will do that.
Yeah. Okay. Once you do that, you'll start getting things. I posted it also in CCL community. I just don't like to email people about every little thing. Jeffrey, I was really close to emailing you about it. But I didn't, and I'm sad that I didn't.
No, that's fine. I'll pick it up, I'm sure, afterwards. But thanks for letting us know about it.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one. We've been thinking about fossil fuel subsidy in Australia a fair bit lately. Is there much going on globally around that?
There's a lot going on, but if one were to get rid of all fossil fuel subsidies globally, this is how much you'd change the temperature of the planet. And currently the planet's on course for 3.6 degrees by 2100. And if you removed all fossil fuel subsidies, the planet would still be on track for 3.6 degrees.
Yeah.
So And there's a reason why fossil fuel subsidies are such a minuscule part of the finances of fossil fuel companies. It's just like it's so small. I think what Citizens Climate Lobby Canada is now starting to look at is regulating the banks that are loaning the money to the fossil fuel companies, and looking at a law in New Zealand where they are requiring banks to disclose their climate risks. Okay, because follow the money, right? Go ahead, Will.
No, sorry, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
And if you wanted more education about that, we have a laser talk about it, and I think I might be touching on it soon. So just email me for it. So it's in my email box. I have like
Thank
about
you.
6 emails I have to send out after today. So yeah, thanks, Will. But I do have it. Any other questions?
Kathy,
Yes.
I wanted to share with you something that I've started through Citizens Climate Lobby here in Toronto. I'm working with the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce on developing a carbon portfolio that will focus on creating carbon accounts for customers and carbon dividends for customers who will be able to literally trade in carbon currency and as a result be able to lower their carbon footprints and be able to exchange those carbon currencies for real dollars.
That's cool. That's something like almost out of Ministry of the Future. Did you read that book by Kim Stanley Robinson?
No, but
Favorite author.
I've been working on this concept for 2 years, and finally I'm getting some headway with CIBC, and from there I'm going to take it to the other 4 big banks.
Oh, that's fantastic, Len. Do keep me posted, because I really think strengthening our financial system and following the money is really a key thing to be doing.
Well, because the banks have all signed on to GFANZ.
Yes, they have.
That gave me the opportunity to actually make a plea to my financial advisor at CIBC, and then get him to work this up the chain of command at the bank.
Do not lose touch with me, Len. This is wonderful. Thank you for this work. I think this is where the puck is going, and I will talk about that when we talk about the G7 and what's coming down the pipes with the G7, and also what happened at COP26.
Okay.
Okay, wonderful. Anyone else? I never thought I would know so much about finance and economics. This is not what I went to school for. Okay. Just also, we did a lot of programming. We had a youth conference. We had 63 young adults sign up for it. 45 actually showed up and went through it. And if we can get 20 across the finish line, we'd be really happy. We're extending the deadline to March the 1st. As we were designing this, I'm going to be honest, my mom got really sick and died and passed away. She was old. It was okay, but I had a lot of other things to do. But we are going to get this across the finish line, and we are going to do it again next year. So it's going to be fun. And these are some of the youth. They were from all over the world. It was so inspiring. So inspiring. And this one youth here, she's in her 3rd year of university in Spain, and she's doing a capstone project that for me is at a graduate school level. Studying what are the barriers for us, the people of Spain embracing a carbon fee and dividend like policy. And it's really detailed, and she's working with professors, but she's not doing this for credit. She's just doing it for the sake of the love of her country. That's beautiful. So go Tatiana. I'm just in awe of her. We went to COP26. Here are some of us. At COP26, we ran a People's Pavilion. Was anybody part of that on this call? So it was a window into the COP, and they ran stuff every day. It was a virtual experiment. Oh, there was about 100 participants, and they participated in 60 sessions over 2 weeks. And I'm going to let that go. Just how hopeful are you? Actually, I'm going to do it. How many here, if you put in the chat, if you're, hopeful post-COP, if it's blah, 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 put 1 star. If you're somewhat hopeful, put 2 stars. And if you're hopeful, put 3 stars in the chat. Let's see what we get here. 3, I like that. Okay, anybody else? Blah, blah, blah is great too. 2, okay, wonderful. I love the honesty. I just put it 3, 2, excellent. Okay, and all right, so yeah, I was at COP26. I liken it to a tale of 2 cities. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was emotional. It was emotional being in the plenary with all the constituencies for the observers, and they were really disappointed on the second last day of the COP. Not much nice things to say about what would be the outcome. On the very last day of the COP, which was a day later than it was supposed to end, many of the countries on the front lines of the climate crisis were disappointed with the Glasgow Pact, and it was hard not to take that on. The youth were angry and panicking, and that as well. A lot of people on the front lines just having a really hard time with it. The Maldives saying point blank, 2 degrees is a death sentence for them. It was difficult. It was really difficult. And so a lot of other reasons that it was difficult. But if I pull back and just take a more rational look at it, a lot of tracks were laid down. The Powering Past Coal Alliance grew to 48 countries. Got all this stuff for agriculture. There was the methane pledge, ending deforestation. Yes, that's been pledged before, but now there's $19.2 billion to go with it. And 91% of the world's forests are covered. Got some stuff, really neat stuff happening in the transportation sector. We've got an agency that will be looking at the integrity of the carbon markets. Yes, the Glasgow Financial Alliance for Net Zero, $130 trillion can be unleashed. That's why fossil fuel subsidies are rather meaningless to follow. Yeah, you got it. You got it. Okay. But there's one thing missing here. So I was listening to a podcast with Christina Figueres, and she was interviewing one of the people that were there. And they said, yes, most people know that this can be done, but there's one thing they don't think it will be done at this point, because they don't trust other people to play fair. So we need our governments to come in and help create policies to level the playing field within here, just like we did with carbon, like we're trying to do with carbon pricing. So, and that's something I think we should be exploring. Climate income was discussed at length in a high-level meeting, and Citizens Climate Lobby was in the room. My country was there. So was the president of the IMF, Mark Carney, who's leading Glasgow Finance Alliance for net zero. This is Mahindra Singhi. He's one of the largest cement producers on the planet. He loves carbon pricing. And president of the WTO and the president of the EU. And they discussed climate income and border carbon adjustments and trade as enforcement and floor prices. And it wasn't just the blah, 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 ETS, blah, blah, blah. They really got into details about what needed to be done. So that's really exciting. We've never seen climate income discussed at that level, and never heard floor price before, and trade being used to push, countries to do the right thing, basically to price carbon. So a few more things. There's the launch of the Beyond Oil and Gas Alliance. I'm not going to go through all this. China and the USA are now working together. If you have not watched Prime Minister Mia Mottley's speech in the open plenary, where she boldly asked for quantitative easing to help with adaptation, you need to. That was awesome. There's the COP26 health program, you might want to see if Australia is in there. That might be something nice to, it's a WHO COP26 health program, might be something, I think Australia is in it, and it might be something nice to say to your government when you go speak with them. But these last two gave me great hope. The finance ministers for climate and DREAM, there's over 60 countries are part of this finance ministers for climate. And I don't know if Australia is. So again, you might want to research that. But this is what I heard in that meeting. Progress on climate policy and the transformation of the economy will not be linear. So we see this really, really slow progress, but pretty soon with all these tracks laid, and once we shift the financial system, it's really going to start to accelerate. And I'm not alone in thinking we're pushing downhill. A couple of weeks ago, Bloomberg said that it's now a matter of financial health to start dumping fossil fuels, and that's because of a Moody's rating that about what's happening on Wall Street. I know I said that really badly because you can tell I'm not a financial person, but I encourage you to Google this and go figure out exactly what was said. As well, a Nature article basically said the energy transformation is underway. So, and this was a couple of weeks ago as well. So we're not well underway, but we're pushing downhill now. So the 1.5 goal is on life support. I'm not confident it's safe yet. Trade, we need carbon pricing, and trade is at the heart of that. We have a problem with fragmentation of carbon pricing policies globally, and that's impeding progress. And we need political courage, and we need to elevate the conversations. And guess who knows how to do that? All of us. So thank you. So yeah, and the power of grassroots community organizing is how we're going to win. So that's my wrap up of the year, and now I'm available for questions. Are there any questions?
More heartfelt congratulations, Kathy. That I've been on the periphery of what you've been doing for CCI, and now that I see it all in one place, I'm just blown away. It's fantastic, and so thank you very, very much.
You're welcome.
And to Joe too.
I forgot, I need to do an overview of what's coming down the pipes, but yeah, there's one more slide actually. I just got so excited to see that beautiful slide. Well, thank you. Any questions before I do the overview?
Hi, Cassie, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Naomi.
This is Naomi. Yeah, thank you very much for your presentation. Wonderful. And I just like to ask you that the open meeting regarding CBAM, would you share the link of the event, if you can?
Share the link from what?
The meeting regarding the CBAM you're mentioning.
Oh yeah, it's not online yet, but maybe I can go to the website. Let me see. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. I'm going to go to the website. So it's the Net Zero Advisory Board. So we have an actual arm's length agency that's going to be guiding our country. And just I would maybe try to sign up for their things and start getting emails from Canada about what's going on.
You can share it later.
Yeah, no, it's in the chat now. It's in the chat.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you very much.
I don't think that the conversation is on there. And anybody wanting to contact me, please email me. I'll put my email in here. Oh, why is that caps lock? So any questions? So I still have to do the review of 2022, and I have some exciting news. Okay, and I will finish up. I hope there's one more slide. There's supposed to be. I forgot. Okay. And I'm going to share my screen, view, slideshow. So let's take a quick look at what will be happening. There we go. So Joe's got this, he's got this idea, and it's interesting that we're going to be doing some science activation training. That's just a fancy word for helping people bring science and communications to their community, because just helping volunteers do that. And that's pretty much what we do anyways. We're just giving it a different phrase. There's the World Bank IMF meetings in the spring. There will be a carbon pricing leadership high-level assembly in April, and Joe sits on the board now for an advisory board for the Carbon Pricing Leadership Coalition. So he's got the ear of some very high-level people. We're looking at also following what's happening with water a little bit here at CCI. Additionally, there's the Earth Day Citizens Forum that we will have in April. And then there's the International Climate Income Alliance forum that will happen in May. And then there's the mid-year meetings for the SB's subsidiary bodies and the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, as well as the June CCL conference. And then there's always that week in September where we talk about climate change because it's Climate Week at the United Nations. Also, there'll be the World Bank and IMF annual meetings in October. And we're also keeping a look at what's happening with food as well. And then there's COP26 at Sharm el Sheikh. But excitingly, it's G7. It's in Germany, and Germany has committed to a climate ambition G7. They're going to make it about the climate. That's like they come out of the gate saying it's going to be climate ambition G7, and they're inviting any country that wants to be climate ambitious to join the G7 with them. And excitingly, I'm a W7 delegate. I've been selected to be a W7 delegate. So I will be working in the women's forums and reporting directly to the G7 presidency. I know, so exciting to not have to come from the civil society, to come of it from the women's end. So very super excited by that. So that's the road to COP26. G7 happens in the first half of the year. So I think 2022 is going to be an incredible year. Keep your eyes on the money, not the piddly little monies and the subsidies, but the carbon pricing and the finance community, okay? And we'll get there. Okay, so now, and yes, Len, we will keep in touch for sure. We will exchange emails, that'd be lovely. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Kathy. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
All right.
Oh, Merry Christmas. I forgot to say that.
Yeah.
Oh, Merry Christmas.
Okay.
Merry Christmas.
All the best for the new year.
Yes.
Thank
So-
you. Thank
See you in 2022.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, if you want more of that information about, yeah, please email me and I will get it to you.
Yeah, I've just emailed you now. I feel like I have a million questions, but
Well-
we'll get to them.
Book me.
Everybody stay well, and have a healthy 2022.
See you,
Thank
Len.
you, Lan.
Thank you, Len. Thank you, everybody. That was lovely.
Beautifully done, Kathy. It's lovely to have you doing this work for us.
I feel
So
really
good.
lucky. Thank you. I just work with so many beautiful people. It's wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, and I have family in Melbourne. Last name was Elliott. I don't know if you know any Elliots, but yeah. And there's my grandfather was Australian, born there, and came to Canada through Liverpool when he was 13 years old on a ship crossing the Atlantic in 1916 during World
Right.
War I, like
Wow.
when the Lusitania was sunk. So, but he was in a big family in Australia, and we still have family there, and various members of our family have been there. So a piece of myself is in Australia. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I left a piece of
great.
myself in Canada as well, I must admit.
okay.
I traveled all the way from west to east, and fell in love with Montreal and fell in love with Calgary. Weirdly enough, I was in Calgary when, this is many years ago, I was in Calgary when the Canadian men's hockey team won gold in the Olympics, and it was just the wildest situation ever. Like, I have this distinct memory of, you know, getting one of those big, delicious Canadian beers from one of those like craft breweries that has like 80 different beers, and the cold glass hurt my hand because I had high-fived so many people in the street. You know, it was just this wild jubilation. It was amazing.
Yes. Oh, wow. We are connected for sure, Will.
So good.
Yes, so good. Okay. Wow. Thank you. This is
I can
great.
see many
news.
more conversations between you two happening.
Oh,
I hope
yes.
so.
Yes.
Mhm.
I hope so. It's a done deal.
Good. I'm really excited to see like what the CCI stuff will do for our case in Australia, because I feel like there is some pushing downhill, but there's a lot of pushing uphill in Australia.
Yes.
Yeah.
I lobbied one of your government officials. Yeah,
Yeah?
it's kind of, yeah, I was in a session about carbon pricing
Uh-huh.
with Singapore, Papua New Guinea, Australia, and Brazil. And they all talked about, it was supposed to be about carbon pricing, and they talked about the voluntary offsets and the voluntary things that industry can do. And I asked about carbon fee and dividend, but said it like the Canadian. Well, first of all, I waited for everybody else to ask. Nobody asked a question. So I was like, oh, I'm going to do it. And then I asked about Canadian carbon pricing policy and described it and asked them what they thought about it, each of the people there. And Papua New Guinea said that they would give the money back to the landowners, which is Indigenous people. Made sense. It wasn't Singapore, it was Indonesia, said that they would invest money in clean energy. And in many ways that makes sense. I mean, they they're a command and control economy. They can do that sort of stuff. And probably their citizens don't have these ridiculous carbon footprints like we in the global north do. So this more command and control economy makes sense for them. Brazil talked about having being like a microcosm for the United Nations, and that they had common and differentiated responsibilities. So they had to think of a carbon pricing policy that could address all the different needs within their country. I thought that was a brilliant answer. And Australia said, we're not going to do carbon pricing.
Yeah. Do you remember who you spoke to from Australia?
I don't know. No, I could look it up though. I should write that down. Who was in that? I can look that.
I assume it was a bureaucrat.
Pardon?
I assume it was a bureaucrat from Australia, I assume, rather than a politician.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
So I'm going to look that up though.
That'd be great. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, because it was bureaucrats in the room. Because even the Brazilian politician was not a politician. It was a bureaucrat. It was a mid-level bureaucrat, which is why we want to keep talking to him, because he's mid-level and he might survive governments.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So Australian. All right. And Will, you're late. It's over, but I let you in the room anyways, and you have no audio, so you can't talk to us. Well,
Hello, William.
I will answer the email in the morning. I'm over and done with being on the internet now. It's been a long day.
Enjoy.
Thank you, Kathy.
So good to see your face. I'm sure we'll speak more next year.
Yes,
Enjoy.
Merry Christmas. Thank you. Happy New Year. Be
Bye-bye.
safe. Bye.
Bye.